Hello, welcome to Tax Roadmap. I am Nafisa Manir, your tax attorney and CPA who rescues businesses and individuals from tax debt and trains the next generation of tax attorneys and CPAs to do the same. So, welcome. I'm glad you're here today, and we're going to dive right into our topic. What I want to discuss today is before you take your first tax case, these are some things that you need to know. Number one, most tax cases never go to court. Most tax cases never go to court. In fact, more than 90% of all tax debt cases are settled administratively, meaning, again, you are not going to court over these tax cases, right? You're going to negotiate a tax settlement, a payment plan. You're going to negotiate some type of resolution with the IRS, and that's going to happen and be instituted and applied with your client before it gets to any type of litigation proceedings. And that is the majority of cases. And remember, if you all remember, I said there's over 18 million Americans, taxpayers, who owe the IRS. 18 million. And there's not enough of us out here. So this is why I'm trying to bring this light to you all into the industry. But that's number one. Before you take your next tax case, you need to know that most tax cases, the majority, over 90, 95% or more, do not go to court. You're not going to have to litigate it. Okay. Number two is, did you know before you take your next tax case, you need to know that there are low income tax clinics set up all across the country to help low income taxpayers resolve their tax debt. They're called low income tax clinics. Okay. LITC clinics, and they're set up. A lot of them you will find, or over 40 of them are located with and located and associated with law schools, right? I know here in Georgia, Georgia State University, they have a low income tax clinic. And I think there's three other low income tax clinics in Georgia. But you can just look it up on there. And the reason why you want to know this is because when you get those clients that are referred to you, or you get people that call you and they can't afford to pay you because maybe they're not bringing in that much money, you can refer them. You can refer them to the low income tax clinic. I mean, that's what I do when I get calls from clients who can't afford to pay my fee. They really can't afford it, right? To pay my fee. Or I feel like the debt that they owe is a low amount, right? It's like it's like between ten and $20,000, okay, and they can't afford to even pay that. I will refer them to the low income tax clinic. So this is something I think people need to keep in mind, because a lot of times if clients are referred to you and you may not be able to service them because, again, maybe they can't afford your fee, we should act as a resource to them and be able to refer them out and say, okay, well, you know what? There are low income tax credit clinics in our city or in our area that you can contact. And some of those tax clinics, depending on what city that you're locating in, are going to be operated through, let's say, your legal aid society. Over 83 different low income tax clinics are operated through like a legal aid society or some type of nonprofit legal assistance resource organization. So that's something else that you need to know before you take your next tax case. The third thing is that there is a criminal investigation tax organization, right? So I know we talk about the IRS a lot of times, and we talk about different tax cases, and a lot of times the celebrity tax cases where people are being criminally prosecuted, that is a separate division of the IRS. Criminal tax and criminal tax investigations is a small part of the Treasury Department. And for the most part, you're not going to be dealing with clients that are criminally taxed. For one, it's a very, very small percentage of cases that's ever been, people are ever charged criminally. It's very small. Okay. And usually you're going to have an attorney that really specializes in criminal tax. Now, if that's the area that you want to go into, of course, you would be able to go into that particular area. But for the most part, um, I've never had a client come to me and there was an issue with him being criminally taxed. You know, that generally is not the issue. But if that is the case, you can refer. You can refer out if you think that's going to be a situation with a client that maybe comes to you. So the criminal investigation division is a separate division of the tax system. Okay, so that was number 3. Number 4 is, before you take on your next tax case, you need to know there is a tax court. So there is a separate tax court, which is based out of Washington, D.C. They are a group of attorneys that travel. So they do travel throughout, I think, more than about 74 different cities throughout the United States. Every month they have a schedule that's laid out for the whole year, and they go in and they set up shop and they listen and they hear tax cases. So there is a separate tax court that if you or your client felt it necessary to file with the tax court, you could file with the actual tax court. It's not the regular civil court. Now, you can file in regular district court if your client has already paid the tax and then wants to reclaim the tax or want the tax refunded. You can file in district court. But if your client does not want to pay, which is generally the majority of the cases, and you see fit that you have not been able to get results for your client, even on appeal, and you want to take it to tax court, or your client just wants to take it to tax court to be able to resolve the particular issue, and they don't want to pay, then you could take it to tax court, because in tax court, you do not have to pay first in order to be able to file your petition, unlike district court. So that's just something to keep in mind. Yes, there is a separate tax court. And particularly if you're dealing with a complicated or complex tax issue, you may want to file in tax court because they are specialists in taxes, right? So that is another thing to keep in mind before you do your next tax case. And the final thing I think I want to talk about and let you know before you file your next tax case is that most of these cases, as I said before, are going to be resolved without going to court. Over 95% of them are going to be resolved without going to court. Those who do actually file a petition in court, of those who actually do file a petition in court, 90% of those are settled before they even go to trial. So even if you decide to file a petition in the tax court, 90% of the time, you're going to resolve that before you even go to trial, because the IRS is going to be that much more willing to resolve it and know that you're serious, right? Because the tax court is a separate independent entity from the IRS. It's not a wing of the IRS. It's separate from the IRS. And this is a great opportunity too, because of those cases that do go to tax court, 77% of them, the taxpayers are not represented. They are not represented by an attorney. They are not represented by a CPA. 77% of cases that are filed in tax court The taxpayer is pro se. They're representing themselves. So this is a lot due to, again, there is a great demand in this particular field, and there are not enough tax attorneys, CPAs, and EAs to be able to meet the demand. So this is another reason. So those are the 5 things before you take your next tax case that you need to know. Number one, most cases do not go to court. Number two, that there is a low income tax clinic in most major cities in states throughout the United States that you can refer clients to who maybe cannot afford your services. Number three is that there is a U.S. tax court, right, who hears tax cases and travels around to different cities to hear tax cases. You want to keep that in mind. And then number four is that majority of tax cases that do go to tax court, more than 77%, are represented by taxpayers pro se. So there's an opportunity, there's a great opportunity there for you to be able to represent clients at that level if you want to do more litigation, tax litigation. And keep in mind that the criminal tax division is a separate division of the IRS. So I hope this was helpful to you. And again, this is Nafisa Fudayil from Tax Roadmap. Have a great day. And if you need more information, contact me. Bye.